Hello, everyone. My name is Doron from Ayelet Tours. First of all, thank you for joining. For the past 36 years, we've been taking Jews to all over the world, to the Jewish world, specifically to Israel, as many of you know. And as this war has been thrust upon us, we have been trying to stand as close to Israel as possible. And we have realized that one of the most important ways is to understand what's going on, what happened, and what is the future. So in the end, I will say a couple more things. But what I would like to begin with is to introduce Rabbi Yael Vurgan, Rabbi of Keilat Sha'ar HaNegev, and she will talk a little bit about her community before we continue and hear from Leora. So, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, Doron, and thank you all for being here. And thank you so much, Liora. I will introduce you in a few minutes. I'm sharing this. Okay. So I wanted to start by just giving you a few minutes brief on what is Kehilat Sha'ar HaNegev, the Sha'ar HaNegev regional community. I'm the rabbi of this regional community for a little over 5 years. And what you see here is on the right side, you see the logo of the community and you see the red flower. I don't know the name of this flower in English, but maybe you know. But it's such a central symbol of the area where I work. And here in the middle, you see the logo of the Regional Council of Sha'ar HaNegev, and you can see also the symbol of a field of agriculture. So the area that I work in is, first of all, a beautiful area. And, you know, before October 7th, every time I was asked to present myself and the work I do, I would say I'm literally the happiest rabbi on earth and I have the best rabbinic position because I really love the area and I love the people. And I really felt that it's a unique rabbinic job and that I was lucky to get to know the area and the people. Of course, since October 7th, I'm a bereaved rabbi. And what we see here is every year during let's say end of January and the month of February, the whole area is covered with these red flowers, and there is a festival that people from all Israel and all over the world come to see those fields filled with red flowers. People say that this is the good kind of red because the alarms when there are rockets attacked is also called tseva adom, like red color. And so there's a bad red color and there's a good red color, and this is the good red color. And so this is what it looks like in this period of the year, in the winter. And I just want to say one more thing about the time that we're at. You know, we're at the evening of Rosh Chodesh Shvat, the beginning of Chodesh Shvat, the month of Shvat, which is the month of nature when we celebrate nature. In 2 weeks, I don't know if we celebrate, but we're going to have Tu B'Shvat coming, and every year it's a celebration of nature. And although many of us here in Israel are still feel that we are in many ways still stuck in Simchat Torah, nature doesn't stop, and it's amazing. There are going to be flowers. The trees are going to, blossom. The almond tree, the shkedia is going to have flowers. And I just maybe want to pray with you together that we maybe get strength and inspiration from nature, that if nature can renew itself every year after the frozen winter, we might have the power and the strength and the resilience to recover like nature recovers every year. May us have be able to recover the same way. And I want to dedicate this evening, for us evening, for the son of Leora, Tal Ailon. Maybe Leora can share a picture with us later. This is a picture, and another person. This is a picture of Ophir Lipstein, who was the mayor of the region of Sha'ar HaNegev, and he also lived in Kfar Aza like Liora, and he was also murdered with Leora's son while protecting his beloved kibbutz. And I want to tell you one other thing about what it means to be a regional community. It's really, really different. And I think most of your congregations, I understand you all come from Jewish congregations, and this kind of congregation is significantly different. It's not a synagogue-based congregation. It's really working in a country area. So and moving from one place to another, not having this one central place where people come to, rather, going to the people to where they are. And so my work was in 10 kibbutzim. Here you can see the area. So the pink is the Gaza Strip, and the purple is actually all the area where the terrorists reached on October 7th. But if you look, I don't know, it might be too small. I don't know if I can make it bigger. Can you see better now? So the city of Sderot right here, the development town, the city of Sderot is actually in the heart of Sha'ar HaNegev region, and Sha'ar HaNegev region is right here. Where I'm pointing now is Nachal Oz. You can see how close it is to the Gaza city. Kfar Aza, the Liora's kibbutz, is right here, right next to Nachal Oz. Again, see the proximity to it's like 1 kilometer from the fence of Gaza. And so like these, there are 10 kibbutzim where I'm still working in, but now those kibbutzim, most of them are not in their homes and not in the kibbutzim. They are scattered all over Israel, and I work with them in the other places where they are. So I just want to show you a few images from the work before October 7th, just so you understand the population of those kibbutzim are very secular people, most of them, very secular people. And so every ceremony and every meeting that we do, actually my job is to bring liberal Judaism to this area and to these kibbutzim, and to kind of convince very secular Israelis that Judaism could be fun and nice and relevant to their lives and not so scary, not something that they have to reject because they're used to it being opposed on them, but something that can merge in their secular way of life and values. And so this is an example for a Kabbalat Shabbat for the kids who started first grade. It's in one of the kibbutzim, and it's outside on the grass, and we're greeting the kids who are starting school, and the parents are sitting around, and it's a very informal environment, and also something that people can connect to Jewish ceremonies and rituals without being threatened by it being Orthodox stream that is forcing some ways that they don't want to live by. I can say for them, probably most of these kids have never seen a talit before, so we put them under the talit and we explain, and it's really beautiful. It's some of the time we hold Kabbalot Shabbat just like that, sitting in a circle, very informal, in the members club of the kibbutz, and we sing a lot of Israeli songs and poems, and of course, it's a very gentle merging, more traditional text and songs with some Israeli culture all together. And it's really beautiful how we have sometimes 3 generations that live in the same kibbutz: the grandparents and the parents and the kids. And see, it's so informal. People can sit on the floor with their children. This is Rabbi Rick Jacobs from the Reform movement, who visited Nahal Oz. It was just before 2 years when there was the previous war, and May 21, he visited us, and these two young women are the first lesbian couple that got married in Nahal Oz, and we greet them. And we had a Pride Kabbalat Shabbat, and of course, bar and bat mitzvahs. And for some of the kids of Sha'ar HaNegev, it's not obvious at all that they're going to have Aliyah Torah, but if they do it and they do it with us, with our congregation, then they get to do it in a way that really fits their values and allows, equality, and do it in again, an informal way, but traditional, and also very accessible for them to participate and to be a part of it, and so there have been a lot of these. And last thing, and of course, reading the Megillah in Purim, and Yom Kippur services. And this picture really breaks my heart, because this was an interfaith candlelighting that we held twice, actually, in Kfar Aza. Leora, can you see that? Can you see that it's in your members club in Kfar Aza? Oh, yeah. And okay, and this picture, that's where I want to close this opening, is from October 13th. So that was the Friday, the first Friday after October 7th. And actually, we started from that minute on to work with the kibbutzim who are evacuated. And this is one of the kibbutzim, Kibbutz Gevim, that is now staying in the north of Israel, in Emek Israel, in a kibbutz called Mizra. And even in the first week, everybody was so shocked and so confused, and everything was so terrible. But we got up there and held a very shaky Kabbalat Shabbat. It was really hundreds of people sitting outside. It was still summer in the kibbutz, and unbelievably strong it was, how the singing together and praying was so needed for people to kind of feel themselves together, to know that it's Friday. Some people say, you come here and do Kabbalat Shabbat and we remember what day it is. And being all the community together. And a few weeks after that, with the kibbutz mefalsim in a hotel in Herzliya, where they're staying. Some of the kibbutzim are in other kibbutzim, and some of the kibbutzim are just in hotels in cities. And so since October 7th, I've been doing a lot of activities, but really my main lesson that I learned is, I can bring spiritual comfort to people by doing all kind of activities, but really the main work that was needed and that I had to do all these 3 months is mainly listen to people's stories and bear witness to their experience and try to understand what they were going through. And I think that for you, what I can suggest and offer as a connection to us is also to do the exact thing. And even though we're 3 months later, I feel, and whenever I visit the people wherever they are in Israel, I feel that still, although 3 months went by, there are a lot of stories to be told, and for us to listen and to witness them, and to try and to understand and to connect to them. It's really the most important thing that we can do. There's a lot to do, and there's a lot to contribute, and there's a lot to we will have a lot of work rebuilding the communities in the future. and rebuilding the trust and the resilience of the people. But I really think that hearing, listening, trying to understand is the main purpose that I also wanted you to meet Leora, which is here with us. And thank you so much, Leora, for agreeing again and again and again to share your story with the community. I forgot to show you the last picture here. I'm sorry. Putting it on just one. Okay. One other thing that's been happening a lot, and again, we are suggesting that to you and your community, is that we get a lot of groups coming, a lot of solidarity missions and groups from communities and from organizations from over the world. Many groups in these 3 months have arrived, and when I'm involved, and this is how Doron and I started talking about what we can do and what we can offer Jewish congregations and groups and organizations who want to come to Israel and want to connect to our experience and to what's going on here. Is that really I take those groups to the places where the kibbutzim are located. So this one is with a kibbutz called Nachal Oz, and the people who are evacuated from Nachal Oz are now in Mishmar HaEmek. So this is in Mishmar HaEmek. And then when you get there, you get to meet the residents of the kibbutz and hear their stories, hear their experience, what happened to them in October 7th and where they are at now and what's bothering them and what's their challenges. And it changes all the time. Every week, the focus is changing to another thing that they have to deal with, looking to the future and looking to recover from this horrible experience. And so actually, so this conversation is also to give you a sense of if you choose to bring your congregation, your synagogue, your organization, whatever it is that you're representing right now, to Israel and to meet the people from my congregation or other people as you choose, I think that you put yourself also in the place of being witness. I think it's one of the big mitzvot that we can do at that period of time. And so Leora, a member of Kibbutz Kfar Aza for how many years, Leora? 40 something, 50? Also a bereaved mother now for Tal, who was the commander of the civil how do you call that, Leora? You probably know already. Civil squad.
Okay, I'll tell us. I'll just tell you.
Leora was the only person that I knew in the region of Sha'ar HaNegeb before I started working there. I didn't know anyone because I don't live there. But I did know Leora because we actually met about 12 years ago in a dialogue group with Palestinians. And when I started working in the area, I met Leora in my activities, in other activities. Leora also hosted me in her house when I needed to spend the night in the area. I actually slept in the safe room where Leora will tell you about in a minute. And Leora is a wonderful education woman and a peace activist and a group facilitator and just a wonderful woman and a wonderful mother of 4 children and I don't know how many grandchildren. So thank you again, Leora, for sharing your story. And,
thank you, Yael. I thank you all for being here and for listening. It's not an easy story to tell. It's not an easy story to listen to. But we'll all do our best to be there. I'll be here and I hope you'll be there listening. I want to start my story on the 6th of October evening. It was Friday. I have, like Yael mentioned, I have 4 kids, 4 children. I have 7 grandchildren. And on the evening of the 6th of October, we were all there for Simchat Torah in my son's house, in Tal's house. I have two sons living in the kibbutz, Tal and Dekel. Both of them are married. Tal is married to Mazi, and they have three kids, Gali, Roi, and Rotem. Dekel is married to Carolina, and he has two boys at the age of 7 and 9, Ori and Lavi. So we all gathered for a nice dinner. We had a lot of laughs. We had some very good food that Tal prepared. And after we finished eating, had some coffee, some dessert. My two granddaughters who are cousins, Mika, who is 15 and lives with her mother up north in Nahalal, and Gali, Tal's daughter, who's also now she's turning 16. They both decided to come over to have a sleepover at my house since they're very good friends. And whenever they meet, they try to, come have a sleepover at my house. So we went home from Tal's house to my house, me and Mika and Gali, the two cousins, 15, and Mika's mother, my daughter, and my son, my youngest son, Ron. So we went home to my place, and we went to sleep. It was a very nice evening, as I said, and we woke up at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday to the sounds of the red color alarm alert, and we did what we usually do. We don't get scared because it's not so scary anymore. We went to the safe room. It's Ron's room, so we went to his room, and we stayed there, and we thought that it's going to take a couple of minutes until we can get back to bed, or for me, for my first cup of coffee in the morning. That never happened. There were missiles. I heard them fly over and over again, and there was again and again red color alert, and it didn't stop, and it went on and on and on, and it just did not stop. And then at some point when it did stop, we were beginning to hear shootings. And then Gali, my granddaughter who lives in the kibbutz, got a message from her brother who is 14. She's 15, he's 14. She got a message from her brother telling her that there are terrorists in the kibbutz and that Abba has gone out to fight with them since he is the commander of the civilian defense team. So Gali wrote him back on the WhatsApp, Ro'i, that's not funny. You don't joke about things like that. Let me talk to mom. And he said, no, that's actually what's happening. I'm not joking with you. Abba is out there fighting the terrorists. And he told us that this is not the right time to be heroes and to stay in the safe room. And he told me to tell you to also stay in the safe room. So that's what we did. And then a couple of minutes later, we started getting on the kibbutz WhatsApp group notes that say, lock yourself inside the safe room, don't open the door, and try and hold the door because it cannot be locked from the inside. You have to understand that the doors of the safe rooms are doors that are you're supposed to be able to open them from the outside because it's a bomb shelter, not an invasion shelter. So once there are bombs in the house, it's supposed to be able to rescue and evacuate those who are stuck in the safe room. So it cannot be locked. So soon enough, we got notes from people telling us, hold the handle. Don't let the handle go because there are terrorists trying to open the sheltered rooms doors. So from that moment on, my son, Ron, and my daughter, Hadass, for something like 35 long hours, took turns on holding the handle of the door of the safe room, because that's how long we stayed in there without getting out. we started getting more and more messages from people around us, from the community. Where is the army? We're hurt. People are trying to open terrorists are trying to open our door. Help, get us help, please. We need rescue. We are wounded. There are terrorists inside the house. They're shooting at the doors. And then no more messages from some of the people. And we were so helpless. And it was so frustrating that we were stuck in our safe room without any means to help anybody, just try to save our own lives. At about 10:30 Saturday a.m. morning, we heard a glass shattering and a lot of screaming and yelling in Arabic. And we realized that terrorists came into the house, my house. And all of a sudden we heard shooting all over the place. I heard hand grenades, I heard rifles. There was even an RPG that was shot into the house. We were very quiet, very scared. The girls went under the bed that's in the safe room, covered themselves with some blankets that we had there. I had there, and they told us that they feel safer under the bed. So we told them to stay under the bed and just cover themselves and not make a sound. And the shooting went on, and again, terrorists tried to open the door, and my son and my daughter both holding the door, the handle, and not letting the terrorists open the safe room door. And then like in half an hour later, the shooting suddenly became even harder and harder, and there was a battle going on in, out, and around my house, on the roof, around the walls, inside the house, and all over. That was very, very scary. At some point, we heard in the house Hebrew speaking, and we realized that the soldiers from the IDF inside the house. There was still shooting going on, but then it stopped, the shooting stopped, and we heard a lot of screaming and yelling in Hebrew inside the house. So we knocked on the door from the inside of the safe room, and we asked them, "Are you okay? Is there anything that we can do for you?" And they said, "No, just stay inside and don't open the door." Apparently what happened was that through the battle that went on, a lot of IDF soldiers, Duvdevan force, were injured. 2 of them killed in the fighting. And once they either killed or chased away the terrorists, they brought all the wounded soldiers inside the house and apparently opened a field hospital inside my house. There were people, the paramedics, treating the wounded soldiers, while their friends broke all the windows of the house and were shooting from inside outside to make sure that the paramedics treating the soldiers are safe while they're busy saving lives of the Israeli IDF soldiers. So while there was a field hospital in my house, we asked again if they need any help, and they said no, just stay inside. And then after an hour or so, about 12 o'clock, when we realized that things have been more quiet, we asked them to please let us just go to the bathroom, which is right next to the sheltered room, because we haven't been there since Friday night, and it was already like 12 o'clock Saturday. So they let us out for a second just to go to the bathroom one by one. And that's how I saw the bloodshed that was inside my house. It was something that nobody should see. Needless to say, 15 years old girls shouldn't see things like that. There were soldiers lying everywhere, on the sofas, on the floor, on the dining room table, everywhere, all around the house, wounded in many parts of their bodies, a lot of blood. And it was very, very hard and sad things to see. So we just ran to the bathroom and back to the safe room and closed again the door. Soon enough, two IDF soldiers, Duvdevan soldiers, came into the safe room and asked us to please let them know where they are, and because they've never been in these kibbutz before. They have no idea what the circumstances are, what the kibbutz looks like, and where do they need to go in order to just save people's lives. So the next thing that happened was Gali, my Tal's daughter, my son's daughter, got out from under the bed, and she said she was very relieved to see an IDF soldier inside the safe room. And she opened a Google map of Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and we both stood there because Gali and me are the only ones who actually live in the kibbutz. My son, my daughter, and my other granddaughter, they came for the weekend. They don't live anymore in the kibbutz. They grew up in the kibbutz, but they don't live here anymore. So Gali and me just showed them where different people live, where we heard requests of rescue of wounded people, of hurt people, of people who said that there are terrorists in their homes. And we just sent the soldiers locations of those places. Gali did that. I just helped her locate the places, but she knows how to send locations from places that were not there. So the next thing that happened was that the soldiers put Gali on their WhatsApp group, and she put them on the kibbutz WhatsApp group, so they could join the group and see for themselves from where people are sending locations and asking for rescuing. From that moment on, Gali was one of the IDF forces, just being 15 and all, but she really did a great job. And we know that because there's a show now about Gali, my hero, young granddaughter. And maybe I'll send you a link if you would like to watch it, even though it's in Hebrew. But there was a whole program on TV from last night that Gali is just the main hero of that program. Anyway, through that time, we didn't hear anything from my son Tal. Apparently, we know that he went out of his house at 6:30 in the morning because he got a message from his friend telling him that his friend was an photographer for press, for the Israeli press, and he saw paraglides with terrorists crossing the borders and getting into the kibbutz. So he took a picture, sent it to Tal, and told him, Tal, there are terrorists in the kibbutz. Gather the civilian defense team and start fighting terrorists. And Tal, at the moment Tal got the message, he ran out of his house. He opened the armory house, which is right next to his house, took a rifle and started running towards Roi's house, which is across the kibbutz from him. He started running. Soon enough, he got hurt. Tal didn't realize at that point was that there were already, he had in mind a couple of terrorists that are just around Ro'i Dan's house, but what he didn't realize was that on that time there were hundreds of terrorists already all over the kibbutz. Soon enough, he got hurt, but he still commanded the civilian defense team, telling them that there are terrorists in the kibbutz dressed as IDF soldiers. He told them, I'm hurt, but don't come near me. Just deal with the terrorists, get them out of the kibbutz, and only after you deal with them, come and deal with the injured people here, and I'm one of them. On his last breath, Tal called the next kibbutz, Kibbutz Saad, which is next to Kibbutz Kfar Aza. He called the commander of the civilian defense group of Kibbutz Saad, telling him to get his civilian defense team out of their homes and all over the fence because there are terrorists heading towards Kibbutz Saad. Today I know I heard it personally from this guy who is the commander of the civilian defense team in Kibbutz Saad, that by that call, Tal probably saved Kibbutz Saad from the same disaster that Kibbutz Kfar Aza suffered. No one was killed in Kibbutz Saad. They were just prepared after Tal called him. So on his last breath, my son probably saved a whole lot of lives. Back to Sunday noon. So the soldiers finally evacuated all the wounded people from my house and left my house to go on fighting against the terrorists that were still hanging on in the kibbutz. Time went on, and in about 3:30 in the afternoon, we lost connection, no Wi-Fi connection, no cellular connection on all our phones. That was very frightening because we were afraid that we were going to lose connection with the outside world. But then we discovered that Gali, the same Gali, she's the only one who has Wi-Fi connection. So next thing we knew, Gali was becoming the commander of our safe room of the Ailon family. She immediately sat down on the bed, on the floor next to the bed, and starting functioning and dealing and handling the whole situation, sending the soldiers locations, asking them to save us, to rescue us, calling the soldiers who she was in touch with, telling them what she heard from other people that were still wounded and needed help, sending locations of other people, sending forces to people, telling the soldiers where to go and what to do. Amazing little girl, really. At about 6:30 in the evening, the electricity went off. Somebody shot the generator off or something. Anyway, there was no electricity anymore. We were in complete darkness, 100% darkness, because the safe room has iron window and iron door, no other windows, and just a little bit of air coming from near the ceiling from a very small round hole in the wall. And we were beginning to feel tired, hungry, thirsty, and hydrating. But something in our adrenaline went on and we couldn't eat, drink, or we didn't have anything to eat or drink or nothing. So the two soldiers that they visited us in the safe room, they brought us a couple of bottles of water, which ended quite in a few hours later. So around midnight, between Sunday and Saturday, a group of soldiers came into the house and told us that they're here to make sure that to clear the house from terrorists, to make sure that there are no terrorists in the house. And soon enough, another team of soldiers, another group of soldiers will come and rescue us from the safe room. That was very encouraging. I just told them that I need to get dressed because I was still in my pajamas. Everybody, all of us were still in our pajamas from Saturday morning. So I don't want to get out of my house just wearing my pajamas. So please let me go to my room and get dressed. And they stayed 5 minutes longer so I could get dressed in my bedroom. And then that's when I saw also the bloodshed that was inside my bedroom. The mattress was full with blood. The floor was full with blood. And I realized that there were more wounded soldiers in my house that I could see before. They weren't there anymore, but I saw the blood all over the floor and the mattress. So I got dressed. I grabbed my purse and I went back to the safe room. And again, we were locked in the safe room. Hopefully, a group of soldiers will come and rescue us in a few minutes. Never happened. Soon enough, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I heard a vehicle driving slowly. I heard Hebrew voices in Hebrew, yelling and screaming in Hebrew, and I heard the evacuation of few of my neighbors that were still alive. Many of them just got killed, but the few of them who stayed alive, I heard the IDF soldiers evacuating them, and there was nothing we could do because we couldn't get out of the safe room. We didn't know. There was still, we heard shooting, we heard bombs. We didn't dare open the door of the safe room to call the soldiers. Gali tried to call them. They didn't answer. And again, after a while, we stayed alone in the darkness, in the complete darkness, all over again. And that was a very despairing moment, I need to say. But I'm very proud to say that none of the despair and fear and horror that we felt was shown on the outside. Each one of us was very, very scared, but we held it to ourselves because we understood that besides staying in one piece, we needed to save our souls, literally, by not letting our fears become visible, because we just kept one another, try to act as calm as we could. Hours went on, and about 10 o'clock Sunday morning, again, terrorists in the house, and a lot of shootings, and a lot of hand grenades inside the house and outside the house. And soon enough, again, a battle around the house. Gali was trying to call the soldier, and he told her, I know you're there. We can't get you out now because there are a whole lot of terrorists all around the house. We are fighting them. Once we deal with them, we'll come and rescue you, but we know you're here. We know you're there. So again, we waited, and all this time, we heard a lot of shooting, a lot of gun firing, a lot of bombs all over, and the noise was awful. I mean, can't even imagine how horrible these voices are. At some point, to make a very long story a bit shorter, at about 3:15, about 1 o'clock, again, terrorists tried to open the door, and again, my son and my daughter, both holding the door, fighting terrorists, at this point, the terrorists even shot the door, trying to shoot it in order to get inside, but they didn't succeed. They were fighting the door against my son and my daughter, but they couldn't open the door, fortunately. And probably didn't have enough time to fight on the door, because if they were persistent enough, they probably would overcome our strength, because there were plenty of them in the house. But apparently they didn't have enough time, so because of all the shooting that was going on, they needed probably to go on fighting and not on the door, not being on the door. So there was a lot of shooting, and at some point, about 3:15 Sunday afternoon, again there was a silence. The shooting stopped, and we heard a knock on the door. And we didn't want to open the door because we didn't know who it was. So we asked them, "Who are you?" And they said, "We're the IDF army." Opened the door, and we told them, "No, we want a password. How do we know that you're not terrorists?" And so they gave us a password that we held in our WhatsApp groups of the kibbutz. And they opened the door and they looked at us and they said, "How many are you?" And we said, "We're 5 people in the house." And they said, "Are there any more citizens in the house?" And we said, "No, it's only the 5 of us." So they slammed the door against us and said, "Don't open the door to anybody." And went away for a couple of minutes. And we thought again that we don't know what's going on, and maybe they forgot us again. But no, soon enough they got back to the door. They opened the door and asked us, "How many are you?" And we said, it's only the 5 of us. And they asked us again, "Are you sure that there are not any more civilians in the house?" And we said, "No, it's just us." So again, they closed the door on us and said, "Don't open it to anybody." And this went on for about a couple of times more. And on the 4th time, they came in, they opened the door a little bit and said, "Listen, there are terrorists hiding in the next room in this house. But we're going to get you out of here, but you need to do exactly what we tell you to do." And what they did was they opened the safe room door, and they stood like a wall, side by side, facing us from the. I'll show you a picture, even though the picture is from afterwards. Okay, first I'll show you this picture. This is Tal, my son, the commander of the defense team of Kibbutz Kfar Aza. He's the one who saved many lives, and I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of being his mother. He was 46 years old when he was murdered. The father of Gali, Rui, and Rotem, the husband of Mazi, a skipper. He worked in Ashdod harbor, but he also taught. He was a skipper, and that was what he taught to students. He loved the sea, and that is my beloved son. The other thing that I wanted to show you was this picture. Share screen. Okay. This is what my house looks like now. As you can see, not much of it is left. What you see here is the place where the terrorists hid and were bombed after we left the house. Not much is left from it, as you can see. So what the soldiers did, as I said, was they formed a wall between us and the rest of the house, leading us one by one, running very low, almost crawling from the safe room to outside to the backyard. That nothing was left from it anymore. But we ran one by one with only our clothes on our bodies. And they brought us, they made us run to my neighbor's house, which was already cleared from terrorists. And there were only soldiers staying in this house. And after we got out of the house, they brought a tank, an airplane, a helicopter, and my house was bombed from outside by the tank and from above by an airplane, just to make sure that the terrorists that were hiding inside the house were dead. Now, the reason they opened the door over and over again and asked us how many are we was because they identified with the body heat camera by cameras that identifies body heat behind closed doors. So they identified that there are people hiding in one of the rooms, but they couldn't identify, they couldn't be sure if it's Israeli civilians or it's terrorists. So that's why they came like 4 or 5 times and asked us how many are we and are there any more civilians in the house. Once they made sure that there were no other civilians in the house, they realized that those people who were hiding there were terrorists, and that's when they bombed the house after we left it. So we ran one by one. We were surrounded by something like 10 soldiers that were shooting all over to make sure that our path is clean from terrorists. They made us run to my neighbor's house, about like 100 yards away from where I live. And they put us, they let us in there to the next house safe room. And we stayed there for another hour or so until they made sure that the path to the gas station, which is outside the kibbutz, was clear and that we could be driven there. Later on, they put us in some army vehicle that was very much secured, and they drove us to the gas station. At the gas station, we met for the first time with the Gali's mother, Tal's wife. At that moment, Masi didn't know whether Gali was alive, whether I was alive, whether my other son was still alive, because she had no connection with the outside world, because she had no electricity in her house and no Wi-Fi connection. So that was the first time Gali and her mother met after long 35 hours. And that's when Mazi and I realized that if we hadn't heard from Tal for so many hours, that no good news involved in that silence of his. We were still hoping that he maybe was injured, was taken to a hospital unconscious and couldn't tell us that he's okay. But soon enough, not soon enough, after a week or so, they let us know that he was killed on that same day, on the 7th of October. So that is my private story. But in my kibbutz, 65 people were murdered. Many of them my neighbors, some of them my children's friends. Some of them are my children friends. 18 from my community were abducted to Gaza. 5 of them are still there. Young people, one a grown up, like in his 60s. The rest of them are 20 and 30 years old. But this is only us. In Israel, there are thousands of stories all over the kibbutz, all over the kibbutzim, all over Sderot, Netivot, Ofakim, Nova Party, all the kibbutzim in the regional area and our neighbors' regional area. And my story is only one out of hundreds and thousands of stories which are hard and sad to listen to. The reason I'm telling you this story is for you to become witnesses, because needless to say that once you become a witness to a story like that, this being witness bears responsibility. And one of the responsibilities that it bears with it is telling the story on and on to your beloved people, to your communities, and let them know firsthand what actually and really happened to us as a community, as a country, as a nation. And since we are all one nation, that responsibility is now also yours. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing your story. Very hard to say anything after such a thing. It's just a very sad story, but knowing how many heroes are within your family is incredible. Just hearing the story of Gali, and I actually saw the yesterday in Giborim. I kept on thinking back about the story of the child in Alba Bet Knesset Sfaradim, the four synagogues in Jerusalem. How the young person kept on running back and forth, and how it continues relating. And when you go through Israel, they a lot say that this is our Milchemet Atzmaut, this is our independence war, and I feel that it's just another correlation. So thank you very, very much for sharing your story. If anyone has questions, feel free to either chat or unmute yourself. I will ask a question that I know some people have asked before is what do you see as the future? Do you think that you'll go back to Kfar Aza?
Many very bad things happened to us. Okay, I lost my son, I lost my house, I lost everything, almost everything that I had as a property. But the one big thing that not only me had lost, but all of us, was the trust, the knowing that my house is a safe place for me to live in. And on that, in that meaning, I also feel that the agreement or the contract that I had with my state, with my country, this contract that said that the duty of my country or my state is to protect me as a citizen. That promise or that contract was broken, and the trust was broken, and to reestablish that promise of never again, or the promise that my home is a safe place to be in, is very, very hard to reestablish. Something very, I don't know what needs to happen in order for young people with children to come back to the kibbutz. I will probably go back once my house is rebuilt, whenever it is rebuilt. I will probably go back. I'm 71, okay? I'm responsible for myself only. I would like to stay a bit longer on this land in order to enjoy my grandkids as much as I can. But I'm very much afraid that young people with children will hesitate to come back to the kibbutz. But I also want to say that the younger generation of students, young people who just got out of the army at the age of 20 to 30, those who we call them Dor Tzair, the young generation, they stood up even though they suffered the most terrible
Losses.
Yeah,
They
in
lost
the
so many
kibbutz.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
The young generation houses are closest to the fence, and so their neighborhood, where the young generation of Kfar Aza lives, is completely destroyed, and a lot of them were either murdered or kidnapped. So they suffered the most severe losses in all of the area.
And yet they all stood up and got and stood in front of the kibbutz leadership and told them, we are going to rebuild Kfar Aza. We are there. We demand to be part of rebuilding the kibbutz, and we will be the first ones to come back to the kibbutz and rebuild it. So yes, I do have hope in my heart, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the next few years in my kibbutz. I don't know how will my community look like in the next few years. And that is very scary, because we still have a very, very strong community. But I also want to be realistic and say that I'm afraid many people with young children will not dare to come back to this place again. Not for the next few years.
Billy, do you want to say something?
I do. First of all, thank you both of you, Yael and Leora, for sharing your words with us today. Being over on the other side of the world, our hearts have been with you through all of this, but there's this feeling of helplessness that we can't hold you and we can't be physically there to help. So that's one. And two, forgive me, I don't know if this is an insensitive question or not, but it's always on my mind. Maybe I'm one step ahead. There's rebuilding your homes, which I pray will happen. And there's rebuilding whatever you had begun across borders. I know that there was work being done with Gazan neighbors. There were relationships, there were projects. And I wonder if you all think about that, or has that been 100% set aside and maybe someday we'll think of that again? I'm curious your thoughts.
Thank you, Billy, for your question, because I am and was a peace activist. I was one of the many people who were members of the Road to the Recovery NGO. I drove a lot of Palestinians to hospitals through the last years. I know many Palestinians. Some of them are my friends. Yael and me still meet with some of the Palestinians living near Hebron and Bethlehem. And I know of Ophir Lipstein's programs of having a park, Arazim, which is an industrial park next to the border. And I very much hope and wish that this thing will be the first step for bringing back some sort of neighborhoodship between us and the Palestinians, because we are doomed to live together, and it better be a good relationship than what we have now. But in order for that to happen, we need to do a lot of changes in Israel and in the surroundings of Gaza and the other occupied territories. We need our governments to be open-minded to those ideas. And I want very much to be hopeful and pray that the next government we have will be open-minded for those ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as we are running longer than we anticipated, but this is our first try at it. I will say a couple of things. Rabbi Vurgan noted this at the beginning, that it's important to come and see and hear the stories. This is the reason why we started with this chain. Thank you very much, Leora, for sharing, and Rabbi Vurgan. But nothing is better than coming and seeing and supporting. So please find your way to Israel, if it's with us or with anyone possible. If you would like, we do have one going February 11th to 16th. It's over Valentine's Day. Show your love to Israel in some kind of way. Or continue with these Zooms. We'll be sending more in the emails coming up. I'm not ending the conversation. I just know that people have other meetings. I will be sending out an email to anyone who has registered about Kfar as a rebuilding fund. If you would like to share with your communities, and if you would like connections to make one of these kinds of conversations or talks for your communities, feel free to reach out to me or Rabbi Vurgan. I assume you'd also be happy to facilitate it. The more we go into this, the more people need to remember what actually happened. And so we can learn, we can go forward, and we can continue to join as one. So that's me. I will let anyone ask any questions that they want. I just wanted to make sure because I saw people need to jump off. So if anyone wants to ask a question, you can write in the chat or unmute. Yeah,
Couldn't figure out how to raise my hand, so I unmuted. I live here in Tel Aviv, and 6/29 that morning just changed everybody's world. I wonder the idea of actually visiting the places where these terrible things happened. I'm aware of two different points of view on it. Certainly, I'm grateful that I'm retired from almost 40 years in one congregation in the U.S., and I've been here for 3 years. And I was grateful that one of the rabbis that I worked with came on a mission of support and went and saw these places that I have not seen for myself. I've seen plenty here in Tel Aviv. Or I'm aware of the stories, and we've reached out to many people, but there's something to be said about going to these places. In a sense, it is it's Leora's and everyone's private places, and I wonder if there are two different feelings among the people who experience this as to, yes, come and support us, but really you're not necessarily welcome to look at the ruin of my life. I assume that there are at least two different points about that. I'm wondering if Leora can lift something up about whether there is a difference of feeling, or whether the feeling is, we need you here, we need you to look and see and feel.
You're right. You're very right. I myself feel ambivalency about the whole situation. So what I do is I choose to go there with mishlachot and just take them to my house, because when I tell the story in my house, it's my story in my place, in the way that I want to tell it, and in the way that I want to sort of control whatever is left from my house or from my life. I had a very sufficient life until the 6th of October. And one of the things that I say to people is, they took my child, they took my home, they took everything from me. But one thing that they didn't take from me is my time, and I choose what to do with it. And one of the things that I choose to do with it is speak to people, talk to people, take them to my house. I feel uncomfortable and I don't take them to other people's homes, but I do take them to my house, and I show them around my house, because it's important to me for people to know what my life looked like before and after the 6th of October. And I choose to do it in my own way. I think what you're talking about is when I sit in Shfaim, where I live right now, in Kibbutz Shfaim, and when I live there, and I know that some people are just hanging around my house out of curiosity or out of that, I don't feel comfortable with that. Okay? But when I take them there and I take them to my house and I stand inside my house and show the people what actually happened and where it happened, it means a lot to me. And for me, it's even sort of a way of recovery, telling the story and making people partners with me on my story. Okay.
I didn't feel comfortable to go there before before Leora. I suggested actually, and Leora accepted that we go there together. And I felt that really, to go to accompany one of the residents of the kibbutz is different than going by yourself and looking. It's really to go with the people to their own homes and let them show you and let them, show you around, and you don't, look from the outside, you look from their point of view and you accompany the people of Kfar Aza when you go there. So I think that's a good, maybe it's a solution to this ambivalency that you're talking about. I also want to say one more thing, if it's okay. Billy, you talked about, your frustration being far away, not being able to affect what's going on here. I'm sure that what happened to us here has a big, I know that it does affect the diaspora Jews as well. And I think that there's a lot to be done even from far away. Please remember that we still have 130 people, abducted people in Gaza that sorry to say that I feel that my government is not doing enough to release them, and we need pressure from you, for everybody who can put pressure on this government to prioritize these people that are still maybe alive. I feel that it's not prioritized enough. Us as the Israeli Reform Movement, we do everything that we can to support the families and to cry out to our government to put everything aside and make sure these people come back home alive. And it's not, I don't know how it's not helping, and it's still not happening. And I think that if you have any way to try to not forget this and cry out as much as you can and try to affect whoever can push our government to do something about that. That's first priority in my eyes. And after that, I think we have to, we need your help, partnering with us in really rebuilding and fixing the Israeli society. I just remember that before October 6th, we were for 9 months, on the streets protesting for democracy and to protect our Israeli democratic state, and it's not over. I mean, the battle is not over. Things are only getting worse and worse, and I'm like kind of begging. There's a lot to do from abroad as well, and I think that you need to be our partners and putting as much pressure as possible to somehow make sure, as Leora said, that we have a new government that is going to not hurt our democracy and also be able to move forward to some kind of political peace solution rather than military solution to the conflict that caused all this. I hope it's okay that I was saying that, but that's what I want to tell you.
Yael, are you in touch with you or Israeli Progressive Judaism? Are you in touch with the URJ here and trying to coordinate such efforts? there's so many of us that, words from the URJ to say, hey, here are 5 things you can do to help secure freedom for the hostages. I haven't seen that, and I'm just wondering if those requests are being made.
I want to say I'm sorry, but I need to leave you now. Unless you have some specific question for me, I need to go. It's getting late, and
I do as well.
Yeah.
It's almost 10 p.m. over here. Although it is getting into an interesting conversation. Thank you, Leora and Rabbi Vurgan.
Shalom.